What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the newest installment here on DMT Infinity. This is episode 9 of my podcast, A Psychedelic Point of View, and in this episode, we have Mavis S. Mavis S is an artist of many different sorts. She's currently working on a comic book series, fantastic visual artist. If you've not checked out her artwork, then I would certainly recommend checking out the links down in the description below. There will be either 2 or 3 different ones that you can check out.
DMT Infinity. He's gonna fucking train your brain.
Shout out to DMT Infinity.
This is a collaboration with DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity. DMT Infinity, you crazy motherfucker. This is our local astronaut. DMT Infinity is our local astronaut. You know, right now, NASA has a couple guys in space, and who cares what they're doing because DMT Infinity is the real astronaut. This boy is steady blasting off, if you know what I'm saying.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity. DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity. 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 Infinity.
Hi. Well, I love your intro, man. You're so hype. Bring that energy over here. I want it.
So what got you interested in artwork? Was it something that you started doing from a very young age, or was it something that slowly progressed through your life and you realized that this is something that you wanted to do for a living?
I actually really got into art like at a very young age that I can't really remember because I was really young. But really what got me into art was actually Tim Burton movies. So I was like, I really was a fan of Tim Burton films and his characters and everything. And for, I think like about like a decade, I always tried to incorporate his type of style. And it took me a very long time until like right now to actually develop my own style. Unfortunately, I do dabble in like different things. Like I do from, as you had mentioned, my comics and chibi style and rodents. I like rats and hamsters.
What would you say that your favorite Tim Burton movie is?
I would definitely have to go with my very first love for it was, was Corpse Bride.
Corpse Bride is a fantastic movie. I've only seen it maybe 2 or 3 times, but from the memories that I have of it, it truly is a masterpiece. And I think that films like that are quite underrated because they have a much darker tone. So a lot of people steer away from them because they just don't understand the aesthetic of that. Like a lot of people, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it is very gothic emo, but I think that the overall story and the overall message can really speak to anybody, whether you are a country person or you're a black person or you're Mexican or you're male or you're female, or it really doesn't matter because films like this are not specifically targeting a certain demographic. Like you may look at it and think that this is just some emo gothic shit, but if you really pay attention to these movies, there really is a message there for any and everybody.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that, especially since how the story is developed. And I really do love like the soundtrack too. I actually have bought the CD, the soundtrack to it because I love it so much. Like how do I put this? When it comes to like my style of music, I'm mainly listen to a lot of like death metal, metalcore, and alternative music. But as I grew, I branched out to different genres of music, and I have like a bit of a soft spot for movie soundtracks. Like right now, like the main movie soundtrack I've been listening to a lot was Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, a lot of movie soundtracks as well as anime soundtracks and cartoon soundtracks are very underrated because whenever people think of music, they think of certain bands or they think of certain rappers or whatever. But there's a much broader spectrum of music. Like even if you're just looking at something as simple as binaural beats on YouTube, or you're looking at something as simple as like an anime OTC or whatever it's called. There's so much great music that comes out of all of these platforms with artists that pour their heart and souls into these, and there's so much emotion and the and the mood and atmosphere that comes along with them is phenomenal.
And I definitely see that perspective in your album that you did.
Music to Meditate too is a phenomenal album,
Yeah.
and if y'all have not heard
Oh,
Music
yeah.
to Meditate too, then go check out Music to Meditate too. Music to Meditate too is a fantastic album that encapsulates my emotional state of mind within the past year and a half. I poured my heart and soul into it, and again, if y'all have not heard that, then go check it out. It is truly an underrated album, just like DMT Infinity in general. Speaking of which, who would you say your top 5 favorite artists of all time are?
30 Seconds to Mars, A Beautiful Lie. Because them, actually, they were like the reason as in to why I got into music I listened to. And so that's one. Two have to be Chelsea
Have you
Grin.
ever heard that rock version of their song, what was it? Easy Come, Easy Go, That's Just How You Live, a Grenade or something like that? It was a rock version of it that actually fucking rocked.
Yeah. Yeah, I have heard of those. Like a lot of artists doing like the rock version of pop songs.
Punk goes pop.
Another band I actually like that's like 3 is Ginger, 4, 9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails is fucking lit.
Yep. And then 5, I will go with Marilyn Manson.
What would you say your favorite 9 Inch Nails album is? I'd personally have to go with Pretty Shame.
I think I'll have to go, what was it called? I think it was called Downward Spiral.
Yeah, the Downward Spiral.
Yeah, yep, that one. I had to think about it for a second, like, wait,
that is a really good album, and I think that Michael Trent Reznor is truly a lyrical genius in his own way. Very much so a musical genius. The way that he is able to take all of these sounds and instruments and then basically make them into his own original sound is phenomenal. Like, for example, whenever he was talking about his track Hurt, the way that he did it, he didn't remember exactly which instrument it was. He said that he thinks it may have been like a violin or something. But what he did is he put it into like an infinite reverb, which is that sound that you're getting in the song Hurt. And it sounds so fucking beautiful. It really does. And you wouldn't get that with any other artist.
No, that song is definitely real beautiful. Like, it's sad too when you read it, but it's still a beautiful song.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that Johnny Cash was the one who made that song because he pretty much popularized it, but it was Trent Reznor who had originally made that song.
Yeah, I listened to Johnny Cash version, and I think I like the fact that since he was, I think, what was he, 70 something like that? I'm just gonna go 70. But when he did the cover to that song, I think it's really great because it helps a lot of people of our generation and younger to actually realize that a lot of other great artists aren't just modern artists, but old school artists that can dabble into, I guess, newer things.
How do you feel about Tool?
No, not many people actually like Tool. For me, I mean, I like the song Sober.
That's a pretty good song. I mean, I know that it is kind of a cliche whenever it comes to the Tool fandom, but the best way to experience Tool is just listening to an album from start to finish, because that is how they made their music. They originally didn't want their tracks to be listened to individually. They wanted you to take an album and listen to it from start to finish and actually experience what they were trying to give to people. Because if you just listen to each individual song, it doesn't carry as much weight as listening to Lateralis in its entirety or listening to Anima in its entirety. Like, if you take their album 10,000 Days, for example, there are songs on there that were dedicated to Maynard's mother, because his mother had actually died. She was partially paralyzed after having a stroke, and she was a hardcore Christian woman who had this extreme faith in God. And if you listen to Wings from Marie Part 1 and 2 and you know the backstory behind it, it's so much more powerful. Like, I remember listening to it after after learning what the song was about and just crying my eyes out because I felt his pain in that song, and the amount of emotion that he put into it is so tear jerking, and truly does express how he was feeling. And it is something that anybody who loves their mother can relate to, because nobody wants their mother to die. So whenever you hear a song like that and the way that he was able to cope with that, and the music that he made to cope with it is just phenomenal. It really is. It truly gives you a much broader perspective of him as a person, his perspective on Christianity, the things that his mother went through, his mother's death, and how that affected him. He truly is a phenomenal lyrical artist, and I would say that he's probably the best lyrical artist of all time, right under Danny Phelps.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely can agree on that one. What would you say for you? Like, which artist or album inspired you to make your album?
I wouldn't say that it was any other artist. If I had to put my finger on maybe any source of inspiration, it would have to be Tool. But whenever I'm creating art, it always comes from the heart and soul. It is always a compilation of dreams that I've had, life experiences that I've had, drug experiences that I've had, psychedelic experiences that I've had, and I put it all together and I try to create something that has never been made before, something that has never been heard before, something that's never been seen before. I want to stretch the boundaries of creativity and originality to the fullest extent of my capabilities and provide the Homo sapiens species with something that is in the very least inspiring, whether it be in their day-to-day life or just as an artist in general. I don't want to leave this world without leaving something behind that starts a ripple effect that provides a positive change for the rest of my species' existence. I want to leave this world and leave behind something that actually has a positive impact. I want to leave this world and make it a better place than it was whenever I got here.
I can agree with all you're saying, because that is actually how, like, if I were to die tomorrow, dear God, I hope not. No, I don't believe in God. Oh, no. No. Okay. So if I were to leave tomorrow, I would definitely want my art and everything that I left behind to actually have to leave some type of knowledge, or at least something positive that anyone can gain from, even if it's like something I've written, like poetry, or the interviews that I've done with many other creative artists and musicians, or even the art that I've drawn. I want anybody to feel like, hey, there is people here that you shouldn't let anything stop you. Like for me, like I grew up, how do I say this? I grew up as an isolated child. So I didn't have any friends. I couldn't socialize. It was me. My friend was television, music, and my toys as a kid. And
so
I grew up as...
Whenever you were watching television, what did you watch? Were you a fan of Cartoon Network and Disney Channel at the time?
When I was like really young, yeah, because my family didn't really want me to watch anything, like, especially when I was like 14 and up. They're like, no, you're not watching anything rated R. I'm like, damn you. But yeah, I grew up like watching a lot of like Disney Channel and Cartoon Network.
I think that old kids shows were so underrated. Like if you take shows like Courage the Cowardly Dog and The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, you don't see stuff.
Courage is my favorite.
Courage was great. And it really did a fantastic job of showcasing what a child can be like, even if it's darker roots.
I mean, a lot of people, like, with the reviews and everything, a lot of people saw Courage the Cowardly Dog, like, oh my God, it's so scary, and a lot of people were traumatized by it. Me, I started it like it was God. I'm like, I love this show. I don't care. I'm not scared. It's fucking awesome.
I think that there were so many people who grew up that are around our ages that were just complete and utter fucking pussies, and now they're bringing that onto the system. It's raising a whole generation of fucking cowards. Whenever I was growing up, my mother let me watch movies like The Exorcist. I grew up watching South Park. I grew up watching horror movies. I grew up listening to Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Korn. I grew up watching her play Resident Evil, and these things didn't mentally scar me. These things were fucking inspiring. These things were pieces of art that I will remember until the day I die. So whenever
I
I see
agree.
we're like, oh, I don't want my children watching this, this, and that. Why? So they can fucking grow up believing that the world is this fucking magical fucking Disney fucking sanitized place? No, we have to show children what the world is really like. I'm not saying show them things that will mentally scar them, but I am saying that we need to show them things that at least allow them to understand that the world isn't always just this pure and beautiful place. But death certainly exists. And those were ways that I understood what death was. So that by the time that I got older, I was able to formulate what I think death is. Granted, it didn't help that growing up, my grandparents were Catholic. But the older that I got, especially whenever I first started smoking weed, I started to understand that maybe what I was taught growing up isn't actually what things really are. And I need to actually deeply look into myself and ask myself if do I believe what I believe in because it's what I feel in my heart? Or do I believe in these things because it is what I was taught to believe? And whenever I truly asked myself that and truly looked inward, I started to walk my own path, and I started to allow myself to become more open-minded to everybody's ideas, not to shut anybody's ideas out, but to understand that nobody really knows what's going on. Nobody really knows what happens whenever we die. I mean, if you ask somebody what they think three-dimensional space and time is, they just look at you like you're fucking crazy unless you're asking like a scientist or something. In which case, then they'll give you their perspective on it, but even their perspective is very limited. Like a lot of people like to think, like especially scientists, like mainstream scientists and shit, they like to act like science is the arbiter of truth to some degree, and that all other perspectives and beliefs and ideological points of views need to come to them to say whether or not these perspectives are valid or not. When in reality, science, for every one answer that you get, you have 1,000 more questions. Like if you ask a scientist about quantum mechanics, they don't know a goddamn thing about it. Nobody does. Because that is beyond the Homo sapien brain to comprehend.
Yeah, there actually are like so many questions that are, well, so many questions that we have in the world, but there's a lot of things that are brought into the world that we can't really comprehend and understand. I mean, like when I was, 7 years old, I started to question the reality of, is there actually a God? At age 7, I'm like, yeah, I wonder if, does God really exist? Because my family, they grew up Christian. And they used to read me like those little childhood Bible books that have like pictures and colors and something like that.
Yeah, those little cult books.
Yep, those things. I remember it. I thought it was a storybook for bedtime because it was so colorful. I love the pictures. I didn't believe that thing was even real. And then one day I'm like, because my family, they used to say, pray before you go to bed and, pray before you eat. Like, I just thought, okay, my 7-year-old brain think, what happens if I don't pray? Will I die? Didn't pray, fell asleep, woke up, hey, I'm alive. And since from age of 7 till now, I still don't have belief in God. What was that?
I like to look at prayer as the weakest form of meditation. These people don't genuinely believe this stuff. They only think they believe it because that is what they were taught to believe. They were brainwashed into believing this stuff. Whereas if they grew up with a different family in a different area with a different lifestyle, with a different belief, those exact same people would believe something else because they would have grown up believing in something else. And people really need to deconstruct their belief systems and understand this stuff. That they are not believing in this stuff because this is what they came to understand on their own. And there are people that do go into different religions whenever they get older and then start believing in other things, but that is usually whenever they go to a church or with other people or whatever. This isn't something that they came to the conclusion of on their own. That is one reason why I take the psychedelic experience so seriously, because if I am sitting here having a psychedelic experience and I come into contact with, let's say, an entity, and then I talk to somebody on the other side of the world who consumed the exact same psychedelic, but we don't have the same sources of information, say that neither of us have ever even been on the internet, but if that other person says that they saw that exact same entity, then that gives more validity to the idea, like, holy shit, maybe there is some validity to what is going on, because two people who've never known each other, do not have the same sources of information, saw the exact same thing under the exact same state of consciousness while consuming this substance, versus somebody who believes in this God because they read it in a book, or because it is what their parents taught them to believe, or because what this church taught them to believe.
I mean, I don't have like much experience with it, and well, a lot of drugs in general. But I can tell you about my experience when I first did shrooms. Oh my God. So me and Perry, we were at a hotel and he was like, hey, want to try some mushrooms? I'm like, sure. Try some mushrooms. Did 2 big fuckers. And we're just like laying down. I was just staring at a lamp for that time. Well, wait, backward, going back. Tried 2, didn't work. Tried 3 more. Then we just waited until it started to kick in because we didn't feel anything. And then, so as I was laying there, I was staring at a lamp. And it was kind of freaking me out for a bit because at that same time, well, the same week, I had just started getting back on my antidepressants. And fortunately, with getting back my medication, I had experienced blurred vision. So it kind of freaked me out when I was on the psychedelics and I saw the lamp doing the breathing thing, because I thought my vision was going to blur for a second. I'm like, well, great, I'm going blurred. Nope, it was the shrooms. And then we went outside and we're looking at plants and sky and everything. There was like this cactus looking thing that kind of, as it was doing a breathing thing, it kind of reminded me of like those toys as like a ball that you like kind of like pull up and down. I don't remember what they're called. And then afterwards, Perry kind of started to get like a bit paranoid. He's like, "We got to get rid of these shrooms." I'm like, okay. Driving around, got rid of the shrooms. But as we were doing that, we were getting fucking followed. We were being followed. Meanwhile, Perry and I, we're both high as fuck on these shrooms. Everything, like for me, like I couldn't even see. Everything was like a carousel. Music was distorted. We were listening to Marilyn Manson's Torquement, and the guitar solos, it sounded like a freaking saxophone. And I almost couldn't tell it was Marilyn Manson until I heard this like distinct voice. But also on that, as we were being followed, and we're both high as fuck. I don't know how the fuck he's driving because we both can't see shit. I kind of lost coordination of my limbs. Like I couldn't use my hands at all. My eyes were like running, my nose was running, and like all I was able to do was like this. I couldn't use my hand at all. I was so fucking high, but it was incredible. Like the lights and everything, and even with the car, it felt like it was like everything was getting smaller. It was fucking amazing. But after that crazy experience, after being followed, Perry ended up having to like run and ditch because of the people that were following him. And I was fucking worried. I'm like, oh my God, where is he? Haven't heard from him. And then a couple days went by. I still haven't heard from him. So I was freaking out after the experience. And then I heard from him. He was all right, thank God. And from that,
what would you say the greatest thing that you've ever learned from psychedelics is?
It really brought up like such an eye-opening for me, because back like a year ago, 4 years ago, whatever, ever since I was young, being taught that, drugs are bad, whatever they are, they're all bad, blah, blah. Even like, how in school they had like the DARE class of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dare made me want to smoke pot for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'm proud about what I did for DARE was getting a second place medal. Yay. Awesome for me. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, I was very much taught, like brought up from in school and growing up that drugs are bad. So I didn't really educate myself on psychedelics until a year ago. And I was like, you know what, let me educate myself. Let me see what are the benefits of taking psychedelics. And as I saw the beneficial facts of like helping people with addictions and mental health disorders, certain ones, it really got me like interested and wanted to try it.
Speaking of which, if anybody out there would like to pick up some high quality Delta 8 THC, then you can go over to utoya.com. Every single product that they have is lab tested and is sold at very reasonable prices. You really do get your money's worth out of every single product that you buy. This one, for example, is a Delta 8 THC vape cartridge. Delta 8 THC is legal in 50 different states. And if tetrahydrocannabinol 9 is illegal in your area, then it is very possible that Delta 8 THC is legal in your area. So go ahead and pick yourself up some while you still can. So have you ever tried ayahuasca?
No.
Ayahuasca is quite the experience. I never ever thought that anything could ever compare to pure concentrated in N-Dimethyltryptamine. And because it is the smoke form of it and because it is so powerful, I really underestimated the power of ayahuasca, but it truly is a magical plant. Like, I was having experiences with the plant before it was even in my system. There is a spirit connected to it. I think that what people call Mother Ayahuasca and what people call Mother Nature are actually one and the same. Because every single time that Mother Ayahuasca has presented herself to me, she always presents herself to me as Mother Nature. And I would have to say that aside from pure concentrated DMT, ayahuasca was probably the most therapeutic experience that I've ever had in my entire life. And I don't think I've ever experienced so much magic in my entire life than I did that month. And I certainly cannot wait for my next ayahuasca ceremony because it I can't say it enough. It is truly magical in every sense of the word.
I think that's something I should probably try to look into. Because like now, me being since experiencing shrooms, yep, I'm very much open to trying any psychedelic long as I won't be like, anyone else that anyone thinks like, oh, take psychedelics, they're gonna be tripping for like ever. No, I don't believe that.
So a little bit off topic, but do you watch anime?
I don't really watch that much anime. I mean, like the main anime that I have like seen when I was younger is like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Teen Titans. I did see Death Note a little bit. I'll take it back into that.
Y'all, this woman's for real just called Avatar in anime. Anime is a fantastic medium for stretching the bounds of creativity. I mean, don't get me wrong. As a hardcore anime fan, at least I would consider myself to be one. I would still consider most anime to be trash. I mean, it is just the same cookie cutter formulas over and over again. Fucking underage chicks with big floppy tits, and they're all being sexualized. You have this one young teenage boy who has this harem of women, and I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick to anybody who likes shows like that, but is that not a little bit disturbing that you have these grown ass men writing these anime about these young ass girls, overly sexualizing them as though this is their fantasy? Again, I'm not trying to be a dick to people that like this stuff, but it is kind of creepy.
Maybe they're just like they're all secretly pedophiles.
Yeah. Now, if you want to look at some good anime, and what I would consider to be some good examples of anime, you have Attack on Titan. You have Hellsing / Hellsing Ultimate. Black Butler, Chaos Child, Death Parade, Death Note, Afro Samurai, Capellion, Assassination Classroom. There are so many anime that stretch the bounds of creativity and originality, and the fact that you have all of these anime that don't even try to do something new is perplexing to me, because this is a medium that can truly show a whole new world that has never been seen before.
Yeah, I can agree on that.
So in your day-to-day life, what do you usually like to do to entertain yourself? What shows do you watch? What other musicians do you listen to? What are your hobbies?
Besides my main hobby of art and writing, usually when it comes to like TV shows, I like to watch like old TV shows like I Love Lucy and The Golden Girls.
What is Lucy? I've heard it. I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
Of a what?
I Love Lucy. What is that?
It's like a 1950s comedy show with Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Basically, it's about, you know, a housewife and her husband. It's a Cuban musician, and basically just Lucy, she always just, in every episode, she does something crazy, either to annoy her husband or she does something that's like, I don't know, too funny. Like one of the funniest episodes that made me laugh so much was a really popular one, is the factory one, when her and her friend, they decided to work in the factory because they decided to switch places with their husbands, because as in the 50s, you know, the husband's like the breadwinner and everything. And so they figured, all right, let's try to work in a factory. And the husbands think it's easy being a housewife. Meanwhile, the husbands are fucking up everything. And Lucy and her friend are just failed miserably. They got fired on their first day working.
All right, so those are the kind of shows that you're into. All right. Have you ever seen this before?
Yeah, I have seen it at one point. I haven't seen it in a while, but
yeah, I never watched it from beginning to end, but I remember that my mother was a huge fan of it. And I remember watching bits and pieces of it, and it exceeded my expectations. Have you ever seen Supernatural?
Briefly.
So you haven't seen it from beginning to end?
Yeah, I haven't really seen it from beginning to end. I know like bits and pieces of it.
What is your greatest message to all artists?
Don't ever give up, even if you're having a bad day. Like, let's say you feel, oh, what I'm drawing or the music I'm creating, it's not good enough. Just take a break, try again tomorrow, don't give up, and just continue that way. Also, it's good to have people around that actually give you good, positive feedback. It's good to have good criticism. And if you can take the bad criticism and make it something positive, also works.
Didn't the chick who played Daphne in the live-action Scooby-Doo movie, wasn't that the same chick who played Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar, yeah.
Yeah, and like,
I love that Scooby-Doo, the live-action one, that's so good.
Oh yeah, me too. I think it is extremely underrated. Like, a lot of people give it a lot of shit, but I think they really did a good job at doing what they were trying to do. In fact, it was supposed to be a rated R movie.
Really? I didn't know that.
And then they ended up bringing it down because they were like, yeah, no, maybe we'll go in a direction that is more aimed towards kids, but adults can still enjoy, which is why you still have the more adult themes inside of it, and the hint of Shaggy being a stoner.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think because I know, like, throughout the decades, like, as in, I don't know, I think a year or two ago, they did, like, another remake of Scooby-Doo. And I know throughout every versions of Scooby-Doo, from, like, the animated cartoons from, like, the very 60s, very first one, till the live-action films now, I feel that the live-action film that we both know that play with Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr., and I think they did a very good, accurate...
Have you ever seen the movie Scream?
Yeah. I like Scream.
Me too. And the fact that the dude who played Shaggy could go from playing Shaggy to playing that dude in Scream is phenomenal, and it really shows just how brilliant of an actor he is.
Yeah.
Because growing up, I never knew that was the same dude. Because I knew Shaggy from the movie is just Shaggy from the movie. And then whenever I got older, I was like, dude, that's him? That was insane. Because the way he can go from that character to that character is phenomenal. And I think he's truly an underrated actor. And I would love to see him in more.
I mean, I definitely think when actors can actually be a chameleon and transform themselves and just portray as the best that they can, it's really brilliant. Especially, I feel that when it comes to movies, a lot of people give like bad credit to like, oh, the actor's really bad. It actually, I feel that it's actually more towards the writers and directors, because not all the time it's going to be like a bad actor. Sometimes you have a really great actor and the movie's just so shit, like poorly written and poorly executed, that it's just like, man, it makes this actor look like they can't act.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily put Johnny Depp or Robin Williams in like, you could give them a terrible script and you could put them in a terrible movie, but that does not mean that they are a terrible actor. It just means that your script was shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It took me a very, very long time. I didn't even realize this until I was an adult, that the chick who Shaggy falls in love with, her name is Mary Jane. And
Yep.
I never understood that like, even as a teenager, I didn't really understand that until somebody pointed it out to me. And I was like, oh, no fucking shit, huh? Mary Jane, dude, that's like my favorite name. Well, yeah, because you're a fucking stoner, Shaggy.
Wow, I just got that right now. I never got that as a kid either.
Right?
Like, as a kid, I just thought like he just liked the name Mary Jane. And in my brain, you know what I was thinking of as Mary Jane? Not as marijuana, but I was thinking, oh, he likes the name Mary Jane, like Mary Jane from Spider-Man. That's what I thought in my brain as a kid. I'm like, oh.
Are you a big fan of horror movies?
Not really. I mean, I do like horror, like the very classic ones, like Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason, Halloween. Modern ones, not so much. I mean, I've watched like horror movies for the past 3 years, and I kind of got burned out.
A lot of them tend to follow the same generic formulas over and over again. They try implementing new little things throughout the series, but it usually always falls to pieces. Like, take Halloween, for example. Arguably, the last great Halloween movie was Halloween 4. And that is mainly because of Donald Pleasance and because of that fucking ending. But then you have Halloween 5 that completely retcons the ending of Halloween 4. And it goes from this extremely brilliant setup to this idea that Jamie is now psychically connected to Michael Myers, and now she's a mute. That literally made no fucking sense. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're setting up this scene to where she's either going to be the killer or that there is going to be so much deeper connection there, but it just turns out she has some psychic connection to Michael Myers, and then by fucking Halloween 6, there's this fucking cult of Thorn where Michael has to come back every year to kill people in his fucking bloodline. That is so dumb.
Yeah,
like
that's stupid.
Ran out of ideas and didn't know what the fuck to do, and was like, all right, well, we'll just throw in what the fuck ever now.
Yeah, I think that's basically how they start off. Like with a lot of movies within horror or like any other part in films, I can't think of it. It was categories. So like with any movie that has like certain categories or having a sequel to them, it's just like, I feel like they just add whatever just to make the money or just because they're on the time crunch.
Were you ever a fan of the Chucky movies?
I liked the first Chucky, and the second one wasn't that bad, but I mean, after like what Bride of Chucky, and Seed of Chucky, and that last Chucky that came out a year or two ago that was really fucking stupid. I hate that
Yeah,
one.
Child's Play 1, Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Cold of Chucky, and now they are making a Chucky TV series, and then you also have the Chucky reboot, which is it doesn't have Charles Lee Ray inside of it.
Yeah. Nah, yeah, I think they should have just stopped after, let's see, 2.
A lot of people didn't like the fact that Chucky started to go in a more comedic route, which I can completely understand. I guess personally,
Yeah.
I don't like that. But they did bring back the horror in Curse of Chucky, and then whenever it got to Cold of Chucky, they implemented more of the comedy, but they still kept some of that horror in it. And I am very excited to see what they're going to do with the Chucky TV series. Granted, I did hear the voice of Chucky, and it is by the same dude. But you can certainly hear the aging in his voice. He doesn't really sound like Charles Lee Ray anymore. But somebody did make a very good point about that, who was basically doing like a reaction to it, and they were saying, well, canonically speaking, Charles Lee Ray is now getting older, just like the actual actor. So in a sense, it does make sense because the character, just like the actual actor, is getting older. So it would make sense that you can hear it in his voice, which I guess makes sense. But I'm still going to miss that iconic Chucky voice.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, it does make sense. You have to like, I mean, what do they expect? Oh, let's just get someone that can almost sound like the old Chucky. Like, no.
Yes. I'm a fanboy. Yes. They have to, damn it. Yeah, I mean, like what he was saying made sense, but it'll always be that fanboy in me that will always want that original sound, though. But it's better than them not doing a sequel, in my opinion, because I do want to see where the story goes. I'm very excited to see what is going to happen with Tiffany, Glenn / Glendala, Charles Lee Ray, and just the general story that they want to tell. Because I think that if they do it right, this may be the revitalization of the Child's Play series. I really do. But they're going to actually have to take this shit seriously.
Well, I hope so. I mean, if they have like such a great idea, and especially they have a good thought in the beginning episode and throughout the series, and if they can carry that out correctly, then it'll be a good show. But if not, then disappointing a lot of horror fans.
Yeah, especially since Chucky is kind of I don't really want to call it a niche thing because it does have a lot more than a cult following. But it's certainly not the biggest franchise out there. Like, more people are certainly more excited for Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends than the Child's Play TV series. But to disappoint the fans that are left would certainly not do the series justice, because whether or not people like the last few movies, I think that even if you hate the last few movies, if they can do it right, that it may even bring back the original fans and show them, hey, we're taking this seriously and we want to make something that the older and newer fans can all enjoy, and that everybody can come together, and maybe we can make this into something that it should have been 20 fucking years ago.
But I really do like that aspect when writers and directors and they all plan it out and bring something to enjoy for every generation and so on, all fans including.
So as an artist, who would you say your greatest inspiration or inspirations is or are?
Definitely, as like I said in the beginning, with like Tim Burton for his creative characters. And another artist I grew to love and admire, I don't think she's alive anymore, I think she's dead, is Margaret Kane. She's like one of the artist that she had done characters like really big eyes, pretty much more semi-realism.
So kind of like anime eyes?
Kind of like anime eyes. Like it's more like they're real big, but it's more realistic than like as anime is more in the cartoon side.
I wish the world could just look like an anime. Anime world and anime people just look so fucking perfect. I wish I could look like an anime character. That'd be nice.
So like if you had to create your own type of society, how would you want your society to look?
I don't know how I would want it to look, but everybody would be worshipping DMT Infinity on a daily basis. People would wake up and the first thing that they would do is watch a DMT Infinity video. And they would subscribe to DMT Infinity on youtube.com/DMT Infinity and cocoscope.com/DMT Infinity. That is the kind of society that I would build. So since you are a fan of Tim Burton, I assume that you are a fan of Johnny Depp, correct?
Yep.
What do you have to say to people who say that Johnny Depp just plays the same cookie cutter characters over and over again, and that there really is no originality in the characters that he plays, because it is nothing more than just gothic shit?
Actually, I have to disagree on that because he doesn't just do works that just associate like with Tim Burton. Like one of my favorite.
Yeah, just look at Blow.
Yeah, like one of my favorite absolute movies that has nothing to do with like anything gothic is because I'm really into Italian gangsters. I'm really into mobsters and stuff like that. So my favorite movie is Donnie Brasco, and in that movie, Johnny Depp, based on a real life story, Johnny Depp played what's the character's name?
Isn't that the movie Blow about cocaine?
Well, no, he was like an undercover cop.
I've never seen it.
It's a good movie. But anyway, he was playing an undercover cop by the name of Joe Pistone, and he had been working for them for I think like 5 years or so, just ongoing case on trying to bring down the top mobsters. And so within that time, he had to basically be part of the mob. But anyway, back to Johnny Depp, as everyone assumes that he's just a cookie-cutter character. No. Because, yes, he has done a lot of work with Tim Burton because they're both very close friends. And so it makes sense as to why his characters are very alike. And when it comes to other things...
Phenomenal fucking role. I mean, a phenomenal job in those roles. I mean, just look at Edward Scissorhands. Yeah,
like Edward Scissorhands is great. I think he did good. I mean, a lot of people never really liked the live action Alice in Wonderland, but I think he did good as the Mad Hatter.
I thought that the great, but the second one I can't finish. I keep falling asleep.
Yeah, I don't like the second one. The first one I thought was really good. What else? And then he did this thriller movie, which I personally like, but he may not like it. Secret Window. And
never heard.
No, never seen it. I can't really remember the basics of it, but basically his character is like a writer and he basically goes insane, and then